these guys are so lucky they're not under oath, because they would have to tell you what they really think of Trump. They call him crooked. They call him cruel. They call him a scumbag. I've heard you all say it. You're lucky you're not under Trump, but when the lights go on and the cameras are on, you're tiny, you're small, you shrink.
Donald Trump is absolutely furious right now as over 120 House lawmakers have publicly demanded that he resign from the presidency immediately. And this is not just Democrats calling for resignation anymore. This is a bipartisan coalition that includes moderate Republicans who have finally had enough of Trump's cascading scandals and chaos. Over 120 members of the House of Representatives have signed open letters and made public statements calling for Trump to step down voluntarily to avert a full-blown constitutional crisis. And Trump is losing his mind, posting furious rants on Truth Social, calling this a rhino coup.
I'm running against the left-wing mob and the left-wing media, the big tech giants, and I'm also running against the rhinos. Do you know what a rhino is? A rhino may be the lowest form of human life. I actually sort of like the others better than the rhinos. You know why?
Attacking every single Republican who has turned against him. But this is not a coup. This is elected representatives from his own party telling him he needs to go. Republicans looking at the Epstein file cover-ups and the asset seizures and the courtroom meltdowns and the obstruction charges and saying enough is enough. Republicans deciding Trump has become too toxic, too chaotic, too dangerous to continue as president. And here's what makes this even more significant. There are whispers in the Senate about invoking the 25th Amendment to remove Trump from office if he refuses to resign voluntarily. The 25th Amendment allows the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to declare the president unable to discharge his duties. Discussions happening behind closed doors about whether that's the path forward if Trump refuses to step down. This is absolutely massive. Trump's own party turning against him in numbers we have never seen before. This is the beginning of the end for Trump's presidency. Everyone in Washington knows it. But real quick before we get into this, let's be honest. You can't really trust mainstream media anymore. That's why we built Public Media Affairs to bring you real stories, real context, and no corporate spin. If you want to stay ahead of the headlines, please subscribe because you might think you are, but aren't. Your subscription actually matters here. All right, let's get into what actually happened. The resignation demands are being fueled by House Resolution 939, the impeachment resolution that contains 7 articles of impeachment against Trump.
I rise to thank the 140 persons who on yesterday voted to support H-Res 939, impeaching Donald John Trump, President of the United States, for high crimes and misdemeanors.
Obstruction, tyranny, abuse of power. That resolution was tabled back in December, but all 7 articles are still live, could be brought back to the floor at any time. The articles cover everything. Epstein file cover-ups, obstruction of justice, abuse of executive power, threats against judges and prosecutors, and now over 120 lawmakers are saying impeachment isn't even necessary if Trump would just do the right thing and resign. They're giving Trump a way out, a chance to leave voluntarily with some shred of dignity rather than being impeached and potentially removed by force. But Trump is not taking that exit ramp. Trump is digging in, attacking everyone who suggests he should step down, calling loyal Republicans traitors and rhinos and enemies of the people, burning every bridge, alienating every ally he has left. And that's only making the resignation calls louder and more urgent. Share this video with everyone you know, because every time Trump attacks a Republican lawmaker for suggesting resignation, more Republicans come out and join the calls for him to step down. Trump is creating a self-reinforcing cycle of destruction, accelerating the collapse of his presidency in real time. Now, let me bring the receipts on what really amplified this revolt and made it impossible to ignore. Marjorie Taylor Greene's resignation from Congress back in November 2025. Marjorie Taylor Greene was one of Trump's most loyal and vocal supporters in Congress for years. She defended Trump through everything, attacked his enemies relentlessly, was MAGA to the core. Everyone knew it, but even Marjorie Taylor Greene had limits, and Trump crossed them with the Epstein file situation. Greene resigned from Congress on November 21st, 2025, citing her feud with Trump over the Epstein files and related issues. When asked about her resignation, Greene made clear she could no longer support what was happening, that Trump had crossed lines she couldn't defend. Think about what that means. If you've lost Marjorie Taylor Greene, one of the most hardcore Trump supporters in the entire Congress, you've lost the plot completely. Greene's resignation sent shockwaves through the Republican Party because it showed even Trump's most loyal defenders were reaching their breaking point. If MTG could walk away from Trump, anyone could. And that's exactly what's happening now. Over 120 lawmakers publicly demanding Trump's resignation because they see the writing on the wall. They see Trump's presidency collapsing under the weight of scandal after scandal after scandal. They see that continuing to defend Trump is political suicide heading into the midterm elections, and they're getting off the Trump train before it crashes completely. Notice what scandals are driving these resignation demands. Numerous and devastating, all connecting to each other in ways that make the overall picture even worse for Trump. First, the Epstein files cover-up situation. Attorney General Pam Bondi and FBI Director Kash Patel allegedly deleted or suppressed files related to the Jeffrey Epstein investigation. 400 attorneys now reviewing 5.2 million pages of Epstein-related documents. What they're finding is damning allegations the Trump administration actively covered up evidence that could have implicated powerful people connected to Epstein. That's obstruction of justice at the highest levels of government. Make sure you're subscribed to Public Media Affairs because, second, there's the asset seizure situation. Judge Engoron authorized seizure of Trump's properties to satisfy the $464 million fraud judgment. Trump's real estate empire being dismantled piece by piece. Seven Springs being seized, Doral being seized, Trump's bank accounts being frozen. This is a sitting president having his assets seized by court order. Never happened before in American history. Third, the courtroom meltdown. Trump was physically removed from the courtroom by U.S. Marshals after interrupting proceedings 15 times and violating the gag order. The viral video of Trump being dragged out of court, red-faced and screaming, has been viewed over 100 million times. Fourth, the ongoing contempt situation. Trump has racked up $150,000 in contempt fines, faces the possibility of jail time if he continues violating court orders. All of these scandals together paint a picture. A president who is completely out of control, who is actively undermining the rule of law, and that's why over 120 lawmakers are now saying Trump needs to resign immediately. Now let's talk about exactly who is calling for Trump's resignation, what they're saying, why this represents such a significant shift in the political landscape. The over 120 lawmakers demanding resignation include all the Democrats you would expect, but the significant development is the number of Republicans who have joined the calls. We're talking about moderate Republicans from swing districts terrified of being associated with Trump heading into the midterms, establishment Republicans who never really liked Trump but went along with him for political convenience, even some conservative Republicans who supported Trump's policies but cannot defend his behavior and his scandals anymore. Share this with everyone because the open letters and public statements from these lawmakers cite a cascade of reasons. The Epstein file cover-ups, evidence of obstruction at the highest levels, the asset seizures and fraud judgment demonstrating Trump's corruption, the courtroom meltdowns and contempt charges demonstrating Trump's instability, the threats against judges and prosecutors demonstrating Trump's authoritarianism, everything that has happened over the past several months, concluding Trump is unfit to continue serving as president. These aren't vague complaints or partisan attacks. These are specific documented scandals reported extensively confirmed by court proceedings and congressional investigations. Notice what the impeachment resolution, House Resolution 939, provides: the legal and constitutional framework for understanding why these resignation demands are so significant. That resolution contains 7 separate articles of impeachment against Trump, covering different categories of alleged wrongdoing. The first article covers obstruction of justice related to the Epstein files' alleged deletion and suppression of evidence. The second article covers abuse of power related to Trump's attempts to interfere with the fraud case and asset seizures. The third article covers contempt of Congress related to Trump's refusal to comply with congressional subpoenas and oversight requests. The fourth article covers threats and intimidation against judges and prosecutors and witnesses. The fifth article covers violations of the Emoluments Clause and corruption related to Trump's business dealings while in office. The sixth article covers abuse of the pardon power for corrupt purposes. The seventh article covers general tyranny and undermining of democratic institutions. Make sure you stay subscribed, because that's 7 separate articles of impeachment covering a comprehensive range of alleged wrongdoing. The resolution was tabled in December, but all 7 articles remain live, could be brought back to the floor for a vote at any time. The lawmakers calling for resignation are essentially saying Trump should spare the country the trauma of a full impeachment trial by stepping down voluntarily. They're giving Trump a chance to leave with whatever dignity he has left, rather than being forcibly removed through impeachment or the 25th Amendment. Now, let me walk you through why the whispers about the 25th Amendment are particularly significant. They suggest even Trump's own cabinet and vice president might be considering removal. The 25th Amendment allows the vice president and a majority of the cabinet to declare the president unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. If that happens, the vice president immediately becomes acting president. The president can challenge the declaration, then goes to Congress for final determination. But just the fact there are serious discussions happening about invoking the 25th Amendment shows how dire the situation has become for Trump. Cabinet officials reportedly having private conversations about whether Trump's behavior constitutes inability to discharge his duties, the courtroom meltdowns, the rage posts on Truth Social, the inability to follow basic court orders, some arguing Trump's mental state has deteriorated to the point where he's no longer capable of functioning as president. Others arguing Trump's defiance of court orders and attacks on the judiciary constitute a form of unfitness, triggering 25th Amendment concerns. These are extraordinary conversations to be happening inside a presidential administration. The fact cabinet officials are even discussing the 25th Amendment shows Trump has lost the confidence of people who work most closely with him. Share this video because the political calculations behind these resignation demands are brutally simple. Trump's approval rating has crashed to 36%, according to recent polling. That is a catastrophic number for a sitting president heading into midterm elections. Republicans in swing districts looking at those numbers and seeing their own political careers flash before their eyes. They know if they're tied to Trump, they're going to lose in November 2026. They know the Epstein scandals and asset seizures and courtroom meltdowns are political poison. They know voters are paying attention. The viral videos and news coverage are shaping public opinion against Trump. So these Republicans are making a calculated decision, distance themselves from Trump now rather than going down with the ship later. By calling for Trump's resignation now, they can tell voters in November they stood up to Trump when it mattered, can say they put country over party, can try to salvage their own political futures by abandoning Trump before the final collapse. It's not particularly courageous. They're doing it because they have to, not because they want to, but it's happening nonetheless. And once the political calculation flips against Trump, the exodus becomes a stampede. Every Republican who comes out against Trump makes it easier for the next Republican to do the same. That's exactly what we're seeing now. Over 120 lawmakers demanding resignation. Now, here's what these resignation demands actually mean for Trump. Trump is facing the most serious threat to his presidency since he took office. Over 120 lawmakers demanding resignation is not something that can be dismissed or ignored. This is not a handful of never-Trump Republicans making noise for attention. This is a substantial bipartisan coalition. Includes members of Trump's own party who voted for his agenda, supported him through multiple scandals. When that many lawmakers publicly call for your resignation, it creates enormous pressure, affects everything else, affects how other Republicans calculate their own positions, affects how media covers the presidency, affects how foreign leaders view American stability, affects how courts view Trump's legal arguments, affects everything. Trump can call it a Reno coup all he wants. Doesn't change the reality that over 120 elected representatives have concluded he needs to go. The bottom line is this: Trump furious as lawmakers demand resignation, with over 120 House members publicly calling for him to step down immediately. Bipartisan coalition, including moderate Republicans who have had enough of cascading scandals and chaos. Members signed open letters calling for Trump to step down voluntarily. Avert constitutional crisis. Trump losing his mind. Furious rants Truth Social. Calling Reno coup. Attacking Republicans who turned but not coup. Elected representatives' own party saying needs go. Republicans looking at Epstein cover-ups, asset seizures, courtroom meltdowns. Obstruction saying enough. Deciding too toxic, chaotic, dangerous. Whispers about 25th Amendment if refuses, resign. Vice President Cabinet can declare unable discharge duties. Discussions behind closed doors, own party turning unprecedented numbers. Beginning of end. Resignation demands fueled House Resolution 939. 7 articles. Impeachment, obstruction, tyranny, abuse, power, tabled, December, but live. Could return floor, cover, Epstein cover-ups, obstruction. Abuse threats, judges over 120 saying impeachment unnecessary if resigns, giving way out. Leave with dignity rather than impeached, removed by force. Trump not taking exit, digging in, attacking everyone, calling Republicans traitors, Reno's enemies, burning bridges, alienating allies, making calls louder. Every attack, more Republicans join. Self-reinforcing cycle destruction. Accelerating collapse real time. MTG resignation, November 2025. Amplified revolt, most loyal vocal supporter defended through everything. Magor but limits, Trump crossed with Epstein resigned. November 21st, citing feud, could no longer support crossed lines, couldn't defend principles ahead. Loyalty from MTG, who defended 2 impeachments, multiple indictments, countless scandals, devastating. If MTG couldn't defend, how could anyone? 1 cent shock waves. Most loyal reaching breaking point. If walk away anyone could now, over 120 demanding C, writing wall collapsing under scandal weight, defending political suicide into midterms, getting off train before crashes, scandals driving demands numerous devastating Epstein cover-up. Bondi Patel allegedly deleted suppressed files, 400 attorneys reviewing 5.2 million pages, finding damning administration covered up evidence, implicating powerful people, obstruction highest levels, asset seizure. Ongaron authorized satisfying $464 million fraud judgment. Empire dismantled. 7 Springs, Doral seized. Bank accounts frozen. Sitting president assets seized. Court order never happened. American history. Courtroom meltdown. Removed by marshals. Interrupted 15 times. Violated gag order. Viral video. Dragged out screaming. 100 million views. Contempt situation. $150,000 fines. Faces jail. Continuing violations. Paint picture completely out control. Undermining rule law. Why over 120 saying resign? Over 120 includes Democrats, but significant Republicans joining moderate swing districts. Terrified Associated heading midterms. Establishment never liked when along convenience conservatives supported policies. Can't defend behavior. Open letters cite cascade Epstein cover-ups. Obstruction highest levels, asset seizures, fraud, corruption, courtroom meltdowns, contempt, instability, threats, judges, prosecutors, authoritarianism, past months, concluding unfit continue, not vague, partisan-specific documented scandals, extensively reported confirmed court proceedings, congressional investigations. HRES 939 provides framework. 7 articles, different wrongdoing, First, obstruction, Epstein. Second, abuse power fraud case. Third, contempt, Congress subpoenas. Fourth, threats, intimidation. Fifth, emoluments violations. Sixth, pardon abuse. Seventh, tyranny, undermining institutions. Seventh, comprehensive, tabled December, remain live. Could return floor, lawmakers saying, spare trauma trial, stepping down. Leave with dignity rather forcibly removed. 25th Amendment whispers significant. Cabinet Vice President considering removal allows declare unable discharge duties. Vice President acting President. Challenge goes Congress. Serious discussions shows dire situation. Cabinet private conversations, whether behavior constitutes inability. Courtroom meltdowns, rage posts, inability follow orders, mental state deteriorated, no longer capable. Defiance attacks judiciary. Form unfitness. 25th Amendment concerns extraordinary conversations inside administration. Discussing shows lost confidence. Closest workers. Political calculations brutally simple. Approval crashed 36%. Catastrophic heading midterms. Swing districts seeing careers flash. No tide lose. November 2026. No Epstein asset seizures, meltdowns, poison. No voters paying attention. Videos coverage shaping opinion. Calculated decision distance now rather downshift. Call resignation, tell voters. November stood up mattered. Country over party. Salvage futures abandoning before collapse. Not courageous because have to not want, but happening. Calculation flips. Exodus stampede. Every coming out makes easier. Next, exactly. Seeing over 120 demanding Trump facing most serious threat took office. Not handful. Never Trumpers substantial bipartisan coalition. Own party voted agenda. Supported scandals that many creates. Enormous pressure affects everything. Republicans' calculations, media coverage, foreign leaders, stability courts. Legal arguments, everything call. Reno coup doesn't change. 120 concluded needs. Go. This story continues.